Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It seems like we have people from all over North America here tonight, and we are going to be talking about one of the most important topics in dentistry to date. And I can already see the chat is very lively, and I will just encourage that. I want to hear questions, I want to hear struggles, I want to hear everything that is coming up for each of you as we're going through the session tonight. So, we're going to be talking about mastering change, mindset, and modern dentistry and using neuroscience to adopt AI inside of the clinical and non-clinical team in the practice. So we know you wouldn't be here on this call tonight. You wouldn't be learning this tonight if you weren't sensing, seeing that AI is changing our entire world. And one of the quotes that I have thought of a lot that has really shaped the way that I'm thinking is that AI has never been this fast, change has never been this fast, and it will never be this slow again. And so AI really is not the biggest disruption. It's how we as human beings are responding to it that could either be extremely empowering or it could be very disruptive. And so I would love to have a why, a yes in the chat if you have felt at any point overwhelmed by how quickly AI is changing, how much you're seeing become different almost overnight with some of the large language models, with some of the tools that we're using in the practice. I would just love to see a yes in the chat, a Y in the chat, if you have experienced any of the AI overwhelm. Okay, perfect. I'm seeing some yeses. I think everyone who is in the world today, whether you're tech savvy or not, can feel that there is some overwhelm, just a little bit of change happening in the world. And so we're going to talk about that tonight and really help you understand what is happening through your brain, to your brain, as you're going through these changes. We have a couple of people saying no, maybe, all good, all answers are perfect. But I want to talk to you tonight about you, your brain, your team's brain, how we can get through these changes in the most powerful, the most efficient ways possible. So thank you so much for the introduction. I started off in dentistry almost 15 years ago as a dental assistant, moved into being a treatment coordinator and office manager. I went to the University of Toronto to become a professional office manager, got certified as a professional coach to help really bring change to teams. I studied positive psychology at UPenn, became a coaching as manager certificate at UC Davis, founded my company, and have been teaching and coaching practices all over North America for the last 6 years. I founded Women in Digital Dentistry because I felt that digital dentistry was one of the most powerful ways to offer exceptional care to patients and to create freedom in practices, being efficient with technology. I'm on Alliance Global faculty, and I went to MIT last year to study AI for business and entrepreneurship. I'm on the faculty for Dental Speaker Institute, and I was a national volleyball player for over a decade in the island of Bermuda. And I've been certified as a personal trainer and yoga instructor. And my beliefs are that your success in anything, in your practice, in your business, in your life, should expand your life and not shrink it. Yes, Robert, I am a busy leader. So I'm a leadership strategist and advisor to high achieving leaders, specifically working with practices who are very, very interested in adopting digital technology. So why this lecture really matters tonight, again, this is not going to be an AI how-to. This is not going to be a tech walkthrough. This is going to be an understanding of your brain so you can understand how you can manage this change. Because again, the world has never changed this quickly and it will never change this slowly again. Our brains and our biology are not designed to change this quickly. And so that's where that feeling of overwhelm could come from you or your team. And so when we look at technology change in the practice, one of the things that I hear all the time from leaders is my team is resistant, or the people that I'm working with are resistant. And I'm going to tell you why that's probably one of the biggest myths that you can have in dentistry today. Resistance really just comes from fear. Resistance comes from change. And we as human beings are not designed or hardwired to change this quickly. And so I'm going to share with you how do we implement new tools, new technology in the practice effectively with minimized stress, with increased adoption so that you can actually use these incredible tools that we have at our fingertips to change your practice. So when we can understand how your brain is adapting to these changes, this is how you or your team are going to be able to use them in the way that's going to change the game in your practice. So, what we're going to talk about today is the neuroscience of resistance and how the brain responds to new technology or new anything, really. We're going to talk about some of the cognitive behavioral barriers that block AI integration into the dental practice. I would love to hear in the chat also if currently, right now, you are implementing a new AI feature in your practice. Just type a yes. I want to see how many of you are actually implementing in this moment something new, something AI in your practice. We're going to talk about how AI supports your administrative efficiency and your patient communication and operations. And we're going to talk about how to apply strategies to reduce the cognitive overload and improve adaptability during this tech change. Because the biggest thing that we can control and predict truly is how we as human beings are able to implement and move this technology into our practice so we can take better care of our patients while increasing the efficiency. So I see that a lot of people are currently implementing AI. This webinar is going to be exactly what you need tonight. So we're also going to talk about the leadership that I see in practices, the leaders that are doing an exceptional job of moving the needle with AI implementation. I'm sure you've done this before. I'm sure you've seen this before. I'm sure you've lived through this before, where you try a new tool in the practice. It seems amazing. It has all these features. You try it out for a couple of months and you end up canceling it because the integration into the workflows, the integration into the practice, the integration to the team just didn't stick or land. We're going to talk about the leaders that are implementing AI seamlessly without stress and actually being able to move the needle in the practice. So we're going to talk about all these things tonight. The first thing I want to talk about is the neuroscience of change. Your team's resistance is not stubbornness. It is a survival response. I'm going to say that again. Your team's resistance is not stubbornness. It is a survival response. People are afraid of the change. And it doesn't mean that they don't want to change. It doesn't mean that they won't change. It just means that their natural response, their brain's response to massive change in an already busy environment makes it very, very hard to implement something new. And so our brain will treat new workflows almost like a predator. Our brain can't tell the difference between a tiger in our practice and a new software being dropped into our laps. And so our amygdala does not check the source of the threat. It just feels threatened. And so a bear in the room and a new AI charting workflow will trigger the exact same circuit in our brain. And so it takes 12 seconds for the threat to respond to fire before the prefrontal cortex even arrives. That means that our bodies will respond to the threat, and then our prefrontal cortex will kick in and say, okay, logically, this isn't a tiger, but I still feel biologically, physically threatened. So when that happens, our teams or us as leaders, we get dropped into our amygdala, and 40 to 60% of our working memory capacity lowers because all of our blood, all of our energy and resources is being prioritized to our external extremities so that we can run, fight, or flee. This is a biological response that has been adopted in human beings for thousands of years. It is exactly what our bodies are made and designed to do. But we can't share with our bodies that this new workflow or this new tech tool that we're needing to learn and implement in our practice isn't a threat to us from a physical perspective, even if cognitively we recognize that it's not. And so what's happening is in practices, people are afraid physically, biologically, and their working brain and memory is dropping 40 to 60%, which is why when you're trying to learn something new and you start to feel a little bit foggy, you often are in that threat response. And so it takes 2 to 3 times longer to learn a new task when the limbic system is activated. Not to mention, on a regular day in a dental office, your limbic response is often activated just because your patients are there, just because they're coming in saying, I don't want to be at the dentist, just because the dental office is a stressful place. And so even before AI, working with teams, very often they were in their limbic response, they were in their stress response most of the day. So what happens is learning new things, implementing changes can feel really, really hard when cognitively you're already overloaded with the demands of the day. If you are resonating with this, if you've felt this before, where you're like, yep, I feel this in the practice, it is hard sometimes to implement something new, just type a yes, because we're not alone in this. Being in a dental office, you are one of the most high-performing individuals, high-performing team members, just because of the nature of a dental practice. dental practices are one of the most complex business systems in the world. One of the most complex business systems. And what I mean by that is the result or the outcome of your patients has to go through so many different people in the practice to create that positive result. Everyone must be working together. Everyone must be on the same team. The systems must be really, really in check and powerful. And often, unfortunately, they're not. And so implementing a new technology on top of this can feel overwhelming. So I want you all to know and feel that it's okay. You're not alone in this. And when we can understand what's happening to our brain, that's how we can actually start to make it easier to implement. So when our brain spends roughly 80% of its energy predicting what will happen next, every accurate prediction earns a metabolic credit. Each broken prediction will actually cost it. So a new tool will rewrite every prediction at once. So for a new team member coming to the practice, you might have hired someone new. Maybe they are a little bit more tech savvy. They have a lower metabolic cost and a faster adoption simply because they haven't been in a pattern in your office. We are patterned humans. It is very, very biologically beneficial to us to have a pattern, to have a routine, to have a system, to not sway from that. It actually saves us energy. But when we have someone who's been in our practice for maybe a decade, 2 decades, changing one thing, they're needing to shift and rebuild thousands of predictions. So the longer your team members have been in the practice, the harder it is. And you'll often see that those are the team members that can feel more resistant, but really what it is, it's biological. It's not personal. So how do we move those people through that? So there's 3 ways that your brain will say no without you realizing it or without your team realizing it. The first one is they block it. They refuse to engage. They'll just say, I'm not a tech person. I'm not good at tech. I don't like technology. Someone else can do this. It looks like stubbornness, but again, it really is a self-protection from a perceived threat of being replaced, from being bad at it, from needing to learn something new when they're already cognitively overwhelmed. The second thing is bargain. So they'll agree in the meeting. Sounds great, doc. Yes, we'll do this. And then once you go back into the chair, you go back into your workflow, you just work around it and try, not to engage too much. Let's see if it goes away. And then the third one is burnout. This is your high performing team member. They'll try to do both workflows at once to maintain the outcome, but they often don't have the training to really, really just go all in on the new system. So I would love to hear in the chat, just being honest, which one of these do you do if you're the one that is getting the change implemented to you? Do you block it? I don't want to do it. Do you bargain? Yep. And then maybe don't go for it completely, or do you just go all in and it's pretty tiring? I would love to hear block, bargain, or burnout, which is the one that you go for. Just type it in the chat. And so the difference between AI, this is one of the biggest things I want you to understand, is that when we were implementing a iTero scanner, when we were implementing paperless charting, when we were implementing online bookings, those in themselves change the practice. I have moved so many practices from paper charting to digital workflows. That in itself was a lot. That was a lot for teams. But with AI, every single part of the system changes. So this is the administrative side, the clinical, the marketing, the hiring, the reporting, everything changes with one tool now. And so simultaneously, you're moving from one operating system to a completely different one, which ultimately is going to create massive, massive abundance and results in your practice. But if you don't do it properly, it's not going to stick, or the team will feel very overwhelmed and the cost can be quite great. So that's what we're going to talk about as it relates to doing AI rollouts in a very, very smart way. So the cognitive behavioral patterns are going to be the thing that makes AI rollouts way harder. So I'm going to show you how to do this in a way that's going to make sense for you. So an already tired brain cannot learn at speed. So when we have too many platforms, logins, and vocabulary at once, your team will feel overloaded. You will feel overloaded. Fatigue. When a clinical day runs the brain at 80% capacity, there is no new headroom to learn. People might sit through a training, but they're not actually digesting anything. This was a big one with AI, ambiguity. When a tool can do anything, I mean, these are the AI tools we have today, ChatGPT, any of our LLMs, Claude, it literally can do anything. The brain freezes. And all the possibility feels completely paralyzing to teams, to you as a leader. And then without a fast personal win, the brain will file the tool is not worth the effort. And so this is where we really want to set the teams and you and the practices up for success so that they can very, very quickly have a win that allows them to see and understand for themselves that there is something in this change for them. I want you to write that down. What's in it for me? This is one of the most important things to think about from a team's perspective when you're implementing a new AI tool. What is in it for every single member of your team? What is in it for you as a clinician? What is in it for you as a hygienist? We must think about that because AI tools are endless today. And we're going to go through a couple of them that I want you to start considering and thinking about in your practice because they will save you so much money and time. They will allow you to be more present for your patients. But you must, the most important thing, first and foremost, decide, why am I implementing this? AI for AI's sake is not worth it. AI for AI's sake, without really understanding what problem it's going to solve, is too expensive. And so it's up to you to really get clear on what's in it for me and my team and really understand the cost of change. What is the cost of change? Again, the cognitive load for change in a dental practice is great. And so we want to be very discerning, very particular, very clear on which AI tools we're implementing and why. So when we look at someone saying, I'm just not a tech person, I think it's funny, someone actually wrote that in the chat today. This is an identity. And when we look at behavior change, when we look at changing in general, people will always defend the identity that they have. So if someone feels like they're not good with tech, if they're not good with AI, they will make sure that their behavior, even subconsciously, will match that. And so when we see that someone is saying, I've always done it this way, it's faster to do it myself, again, you're not working with someone who's being resistant. You are working with an identity of someone who actually believes that they cannot do this task. So the brain will defend that identity that it took years, maybe decades to build, and the new tool will feel like an absolute demotion. And I would love to hear in the chat if you have a team member in your practice that might be scared that they're on their way out because of AI. And again, do you think that they are going to go full force into the implementation, or do you think that they're going to bypass it? It's very, very different the way that people will look at these things when they feel a certain identity around them. But you can change this as leaders. I'm going to show you how. You have to invite people into a new identity. So when we have new tech in the room or new tech in the practice, you will see that there's often one person, maybe two, that are going to have that level of resistance. So this is what I want you to do with that person specifically. If you see the resistance, if you see someone holding out, not wanting to engage, name what they are giving up, not what they're gaining. So see them, understand. I see that you feel nervous about this. I see that this feels hard for you. Name what they are giving up, not what they're gaining. I know that you're going to have to take some time to learn this. I know that you're going to need to change some of the systems that you have in the practice to implement this. Ask them, how do you think this could go? What are your ideas on rolling this out? What are your thoughts on making this stick? Ask them and invite their input on how this rollout should work. When someone has buy-in to a solution, they are 90% more likely to do it. So just ask, what are your thoughts on implementing this? What do you think we should do as we move forward with this tech? And then assign them a role. Assign them a defined role that is leading the change. Yes, I am suggesting that you take your most resistant person in the practice and assign them to be potentially even your AI officer. Write that down. By the end of 2026, every practice should have an AI officer. What this person does is they actually are the ones that are responsible and accountable for the new tools that are moving into the practice. When we look at the difference between accountability versus responsibility, responsibility is, this is my baby to rock, but I'm going to give it to you and you can rock the baby. Accountability is, this is my baby and I'm the mom. So accountability, someone owns that role. Responsibility, everyone can hold the baby, but it's not their baby. And so when you have an AI officer, this is the person who is researching the new tools. They are ensuring everyone is trained. They are checking in to make sure that everyone is using the tools as intended. And they're making sure that there's no overlap in the costs. What you're going to see is, and you're probably already seeing this, a lot of the AI tools that were an individual tool, they only did one thing. Now they do everything. And so pretty soon you're going to be able to release some of the tools that you have, because the tools that you have already in the practice, they're going to be able to do multiple things at once. I'm going to give you some examples of those. But this is what your AI officer does. And just as a side note, your AI officer is not the dentist. The AI officer is not the clinician. The AI officer is not someone that is seeing patients 80% of the time. We want this person to have that flexibility and freedom to be able to support. So let's talk about AI in your practice now. What is actually working in the dental practices today? And I think something that can be really fun is we have 114 people on this call. If each of you, if you're not driving, if you can type in the chat, what is your favorite AI tool right now? This is going to be really cool to see, because there are so many out there and they are popping up so quickly. I want to hear in the chat, what is your favorite AI tool today? So again, the first step in implementing any AI tool, you have to understand why. What is this doing? What problem is this solving? What are we removing from our time in order to implement this tool? Okay, so I see we haven't used it yet. Amazing. You're in the right spot. We're going to talk about a few that I would say would be a great start. So we have to understand, what are some of the most painful struggles in the practice? What are the most exhausting things that we're dealing with? Is it recall emails? Is it scheduling? Is it insurance? Is it x-ray reading? Like whatever it is, we want you to understand, what is the most difficult thing that you're dealing with in the practice? The answer is AI can help you with it today. So for those of you that aren't using it yet, that's what I want you to think about. What is one of the things in the practice that is the most stressful, the most time consuming? We can 100% find a solution for it with AI today, and it's only going to get better. So this is where AI is paying for itself in the first 30 days. Number one, insurance verification, from 14 minutes to 2 minutes per patient. There are dozens of companies that are doing insurance verification. And this is 8 to 12 hours back per week. And I mean, when I talk to front desk administrators, there is not a single one that's like, no, Allison, please let me keep my insurance verification. Please let me stay with the insurance companies. They don't want it. So insurance verification, I think, is one of the most powerful ones. And here's a hot take on insurance. Your insurance companies are using AI at the speed of light to help decline your claims, and you're trying to fight that with a human being. So if you do not have a software that is helping you with insurance verification, a couple, just to give you some ideas, one is Pearl.ai. They now have insurance verification, and Practice by Numbers. Those are two that I know and I've seen work really, really well for insurance verification. You're going to see more coming down the pipeline. And my recommendation is find the companies that have been in dental for a while. There are a lot of companies that are coming up that are just brand new to dentistry, kind of getting on the AI train. Find the companies that have been in dentistry for a while. They will be better served for you. So insurance verification, again, your insurance companies are certainly using AI to deny your claims. You definitely want to have your teams be supported in getting the claims, your insurance verified, making it easier for your patients, making it easier for your team so that they can spend more time on customer service. Claims follow-ups, auto-drafted appeal letters, collections up 6 to 9% in the practice. So being able to auto-draft appeal letters, being able to have that piece of it be automatically sorted, this is huge in a dental practice that has volume. Recall list generation, AI segmented by risk and revenue. This will increase the recall rate by 18% in 60 days. Again, Practice by Numbers is a good one for recall list generation, being able to fill your schedule with a couple of clicks, with AI being able to scan the patient's database. Every single practice management software that you have today is going to have an AI feature in it if they don't already. Utilize it, learn it, understand how it can support you. Call your practice management software after this webinar and say, how are you implementing AI? How can you help us make things easier? Because it is super powerful to have that. And then end of day reconciliation, AI cross-checks your practice management software versus the ledger. And this is 30 minutes return to your office manager. These are just some of the ways. And when I look at AI people are saying, I don't want it. I don't want our practice to sound like AI. I don't want it to remove the human voice. It honestly just removes that cognitive task. Or the tax of needing to do the repetitive tasks that your front desk administrative team members or your dental team members do not need to do. They write, when I'm sitting at a front desk listening, they write the same things 100 times. They say the same things on the phones 100 times. We can actually personalize language and personalize the work way more using AI so that your clients, your patients get a much better experience. That's the goal, is to remove all of that the cognitive tasks. And so with recall messaging, you can personalize follow-ups. You can personalize if someone didn't book their treatment, you can have them be reached out directly, specifically using AI with a very personalized message to get them to schedule. Post-op check-ins. I mean, one of my practices, it was one of the most important things that they did for their patients. And it was often the last thing that got done. So auto-drafted from procedure codes sent by the assistant. So this is something that your assistants can take over in a really, really powerful way. Treatment plan follow-ups. You can ask your large language model, which is like your ChatGPT or Claude, to create treatment plan follow-ups in plain language and then use that into a HIPAA compliant software. So this is just a very important fact. Never put patient information into a ChatGPT, into a Claude, into anything like that. You need to make sure that your practice management software or your dental software specifically that has the HIPAA security, you are using all of your communication with patients or your patient data only in those. And this is something that you want to talk to your teams about immediately. Teams are going to be using AI, whether you know it or like it or not, but it's up to you to put the guardrails on and say, you can use your Claude or your ChatGPT for creating language that you can plug in to your Weave or your Mango, your patient communication software, but you cannot put patient data and patient information into your Claude or your ChatGPT. This is very, very important. We do not want our patient data to be put into those open models. You can turn the settings and the trainings off on those large language models when you have a private account, but still, this is something that you should be building for your team as an AI playbook, the do's and don'ts in your practice of what is appropriate and what is not. So really, really important, but you can create treatment plan follow-up language that is very plain language that patients will actually open. They'll feel like it's even more personal than your other ones so that they will book and schedule. And then review requests. I mean, this has been going on in dentistry for, I want to say like a decade, but they can have it timed to the highest emotional moment of the visit. They can have it very, very personalized. So again, AI is not replacing your humans. We are not building a practice of robots, but what we are doing is allowing for those repetitive tasks to be offloaded so your teams and you can be more directly focused on your patients. So when we look at the clinical judgment, I would be curious to hear, just type a yes in the chat if you're using anything for a radiograph review. So second looks on AI on bite wings, hands, early caries, bone level changes. Okay, so Pearl AI is an incredible software that will have a second opinion on anything clinical to allow for what, your tired eyes might not see at 4 p.m. You can customize this as a clinician. So you can say, this is my clinical preferences. You can go through certain segments where you're categorizing, like, I would diagnose this, I wouldn't diagnose this. So it's very, very customizable. But the cool thing about it is that with those x-rays, when you take those x-rays, your software, your AI software can actually go in and capture all the data and say, these are all the patients that have outstanding caries. These are all the patients that have outstanding, they have pockets or they have perio that hasn't been diagnosed. They'll work with your practice management software and actually be able to inform you of all of your patients in the practice that need work. So it's very, very powerful to be able to have that. The other thing, as a patient's perspective, patients are trusting. They want to trust the clinician. Trust for the clinician is at an all-time high, but they understand it better when they can see it on technology. So things like an iTero scanner or any kind of scanner, or a Pearl that's allocating where the caries are, the patients are listening to you, but they're seeing something different. And so their trust increases. Voice to note charting. Oh my gosh. This is your procedural notes drafted in real time from the dentist's voice during the appointment. I would love to hear in the chat who is using something like this. This is almost an hour of time that is off the doctor or the team member's plate. Okay, so this is a huge one, voice to note charting. Every single company is coming out with this. Like you've got Pearl using it, Practice My Numbers is using it, Mango. All of these companies are doing voice to note charting. You want to just make sure that the input, the actual software that you're speaking into is good so that there's no word error, right? But this is a huge time saver in the practice. And then, of course, treatment plan drafting. AI will assemble a draft plan from the chart. You just take a look at it, doctors. You take a look and you refine it and sign off. This is a faster handoff to the treatment coordinator. This is a beautifully designed ability to get these things off your plate. And so, again, these things will take so much off of your plate, but you must be able to implement them in a way that doesn't cause chaos in the practice. Because again, this is a lot of changes at once if you want to go for a digital practice or an AI forward practice. So when we look at where our managers, as a previous office manager, if I had this data in the practice at my fingertips, I would have been able to grow our practice even faster. So when we have reporting dashboards, this is where AI can take your KPIs, your key performance indicators in the practice, hold them up on a snapshot, and you can actually talk to that AI and say, hey, where could we be more productive this week? Who was the most productive this week? Show me this data in this frame. So you can actually use the data that you have in your practice to learn and understand where the opportunities are. And a lot of this is automatic. I remember needing to pull reports, print reports, do the math on reports on my own. But your reporting dashboards will quickly show a snapshot of exactly where you are in your practice. And when we look at growing dental practices, when we look at growing businesses, one of the most important things is we see the numbers, we see where we are. So a reporting dashboard to me is a non-negotiable in a practice. And so you can see the production, the collections, you can see recall, you can see hygiene utilization in an absolute instant. The second thing, for a manager perspective in practice operations, first round screening summaries and interview prompts tailored to the role. So I write some roles that certain practices are wanting. I write them in seconds with AI. I know exactly what the practice is wanting. I write those in moments. You can also take your practice values, your mission. You can share with AI like what your practice is really all about and ask to create interviews that are tailored specifically to your practice. So you would just put that into your Claude, your ChatGPT, and say, build me out specifically tailored interview questions that will guarantee the success of this applicant. And you're going to be able to get really, really great interview questions. You're going to get screening summaries. Hiring gets to be so much easier. And not to mention your training playbook. So one of the recommendations I just gave one of my practices that I was on the phone with earlier tonight is to actually start recording all of her meetings, all of her training. She's hiring a new associate. And I'm like, how do you not say this more than once? How do you train this new associate with all of your specifications, all of your preferences, but only once? Because you record the conversation and you pull it in to all of your training playbooks moving forward. These can be tailored, they can be expanded on, they can be updated based on current regulation in your state or province, using AI and having it source the relevant information. So your playbooks can be living, breathing documents that you don't have to update on your own. But for anything that you're training on, don't say it more than once. And then, of course, your standard operating procedure documentation. AI captures the way you actually run your practice and not the way that you wrote it down 5 years ago and it's sitting on a dusty shelf in the corner of your practice. You can have living, breathing protocols, documentation so easily. I build out custom office manuals in seconds, in absolute seconds, based on the current state, the current legislation, the current laws that are in whatever jurisdiction that the practice is in. You can have them so relevant. This would have cost you probably $10,000 to get one of those built to that level, only 3 years ago. So there's no reason why your practice can't be even more organized, more standardized, and it's so easy for your manager or for you doctors to be able to build this. So really looking at all the ways that you can, again, don't say it more than once. If you're in a team meeting, you're recording the team meeting, you're allowing this training to continue. Okay, let's talk about the cognitive load. These are going to be the strategies that protect your team's brain while the workflow is being built around them. Again, when I see technology be implemented into a practice, it's not the technology that doesn't work. It's the way that the practice is implementing it that doesn't work. And we don't want to be losing team members. We do not want to bring chaos into the practice because we're trying to be more efficient. And so this is where I'm going to teach you some of the best practices that teams are doing to implement this. And I built a fun acronym just so you can remember this. There are 4 moves that lower the cost of change. And again, the cost of change is cognitive load. It is stress. It is feeling overwhelmed. It is, just a little bit of chaos in the practice when new systems are being implemented. The first one, contain. One tool at a time. After this webinar, you're going to feel fired up to go and get all of your AI tools, pick one at a time and base it on what is your biggest opportunity or biggest problem in your practice that this one tool will change. Insurance verification, maybe it's your practice dashboard. Maybe you haven't built an office manual for the last 5 years. What is the number one pain point? Implement that tool first. Allow the team to win. Allow yourself to win. Don't implement 2 at a time. And then the second thing is anchor. Tie every new behavior to an existing trigger in the day. What does this mean? It means that for any system that you already have in your practice, every practice has one system that they're really good at least one. For every new behavior, you tie it to something you're already doing really, really well. If at the end of the day, you print your day sheets, tie the new behavior to printing the day sheets. You want to habit stack. This is something that you learn from James Clear. He is the master of behavior change. Every single time you want to try something new, implement it with an existing behavior that's already cemented in the practice. So whatever your practice is doing really well, if you're going to start a new behavior, tie it to that one. When we do this, we also do this. When we have our morning huddle, we also look at our KPI dashboard. When we look at our KPI dashboard, we also are pulling the data on all of the decay that's still in our practice and following up with a email to those patients to get them back in the practice. Whatever your workflow is, tie it to something that's already working. The third thing is lower. Remove every decision from the workflow that does not need to be there. Again, every decision is costing you cognitively. You already in a dental office have way too many decisions for your brain to handle. We don't want to add more decisions. Don't make people think. Do not make people think. And again, it's not because people are lazy. It's not because they're not smart. It's because the amount of decisions that you have to make in a day, doctors, cognitively reduces through the day. You get more and more tired. Your motivation wanes. And by the end of the day, when you said you're going to go to the gym, you simply can't because you're exhausted. You have no more cognitive bandwidth. And so remove every decision from the workflow that does not need to be there. And then measure it. Give the team one number they own and watch it weekly. So if you're going to implement insurance verification for the practice, measure what the results are of that and then celebrate it. One of the biggest ways to get people to do more of what you want is to celebrate them. When Harvard Business Review came out with a lecture on there's 2 words that a practice can use to implement behavior change more than anything else, just 2 words, yes, this. What does that mean? It means that when someone does something that you want them to do, they pull up the AI x-rays, they use the new AI software that you just implemented, you make a big deal about it. You say, yes, this is exactly what we were talking about. This is exactly what we were wanting. You did it. Amazing. Celebrate. Those 2 words will change your practice. And then language. When we look at language, the way we say things really matters as a leader. It really matters. And it doesn't matter just from the emotional perspective. It matters from the biological perspective. as leaders, when we say things that are inclusive, when we say things that are inviting, when we allow people to feel like they're a part of the change, not the change happening to them, you'll see a massively different response. So, how you say it is half the rollout. It lowers the threat. If you're saying, we're launching this, no questions asked, get to it, immediately someone's amygdala is going to fire up. They're going to go into that fight or flight response. They're losing 40 to 60% of their cognitive bandwidth. They instantly become less smart, not because they're not smart people. It's because they're using a different part of their brain. They're using the brain that is protecting them. So when you say, hey, we're testing this for 2 weeks, I'd love to hear your input. Let's try it out. You use the words we, let's, ours. Can't wait to try it. Excited to hear your response. You're going to have so much more adoption, way less threat, and your team is instantly going to become smarter. From now on, you're going to use this tool, say things for this next pay period, let's try this. For this next period of time, let's try this. Let's try this for when we are collecting payments from our patients. Let's try. How's it going? If you ask a question like that, you likely are going to get a one-word answer. Good, fine, it's all good. Yep. What you want to ask your team or anyone else that is responsible for this, what did you notice this week? What were the wins? What were the hardships? What did you notice? Give us an idea. Use open-ended questions. And you're going to see a bigger response from people. They will not be in their amygdala. They will be in their prefrontal cortex. They will be in their part of their brain that is responsible for collaboration, for communication. You're going to see something completely different. And so allow yourself to say it differently. And when we look at when it struggles, and I'm going to say this, when you implement AI, like everyone's so excited about these new tools, but I want you to be really, really discerning, very clear about why you're implementing it, what it's for. And when it doesn't work or when the team struggles, it's not if, it is when. You can ask, what's the friction point right now before you assume the rollout's on track? This is what I see. People are like, we talked about it once and now it's good to go. Someone needs to be told something 7 times before it's fully baked in their minds. 7. So if you haven't talked to your team about this 7 times, if you haven't told yourself this 7 times, expect yourself to forget. This is how our brain works. We need the repetition. So when things don't go according to plan, I want you to assume that they won't when you first implement it. Stick with it and ask, what's the friction point right now? What's not working? What's the struggle? Before you assume it's on track. And then you normalize the struggle. I get the opportunity to talk to team members one-on-one in practices all the time. And a lot of the team members that have been in dentistry for a long time feel afraid of changing technology. You might feel afraid of changing technology. And the biggest thing is fear that they're going to look bad in front of patients. They're not going to be able to adapt or adopt quickly enough. They're going to lose their abilities in the practice and it feels very overwhelming for them. And so normalize it. Not everyone is the same at technology. There are people that are born in different generations who are not as just quick and savvy. You're going to have younger people who have grown up with a laptop in their hands. They're going to be super fast at it, but we must normalize that there is a learning curve because people will feel less awkward. Then they'll start to feel like they can be a part of this change, not a resistant to it. And then praise the team member who flags a broken step louder than the one who quietly works around it. If you have someone in the practice saying, hey, this isn't working, we need to fix this, that's the person that you know is going to solve the problem. Rather than the other person that is just tugging their head, getting it done, you want to really, really pull what's not working out. This is, again, one of the ways that you're going to allow for these changes to take place in a powerful way. So let's look at the leadership that makes it stick. This is the 5 moves that leaders make before, during, and after a rollout. So leaders, you're going to set the temperature of the room. Go first. Be visibly the clumsy user. The very first time I was taking an iTero scan, I remember I was sweating. I felt like I was going to be so bad at it, but I went first to show my team like, hey, it's okay to learn. And what I say to teams is be the best beginner there ever was. Be the best beginner AI adopter there ever was. Be the best beginner user of this technology there ever was. Just be a beginner. Allow yourself to be a beginner. Go first. It gives the team permission to be new at something. Again, when you have people that have been in your practice for 10 to 20 years, they likely haven't done something that's super, super new and uncomfortable for a long time. They're experts. Name what's hard. Do not pretend the rollout is easy. Don't avoid it. Don't ignore it. Don't say this is going to take, only a couple of weeks. Say, we're going to work on this. We're going to get it. This is going to ultimately help you. And there are going to be some road bumps on the way. We're going to get it through it together. Again, pick the champion. Pick your AI officer. Have someone in your practice that is going to drive this ship. Have them document what they're doing. Have them check in on every single team member. This is going to be probably one of the most powerful roles that you can implement in your practice to date, because it's going to allow you as a dentist to not own this process and have one person who is deeply entrenched in this. Have somebody, either the most resistant person or the person that's most excited. And then protect the time. Block time on your schedule to train. I get to see inside of dozens and dozens and dozens of practices, and the ones that have blocked time to train are always the highest producing. Always. I can sense it the moment I walk into a practice. The ones that have blocked time for training and the team is integrated, they are training, they are learning. Those are the practices that go back and multiply their production after the training. And I know, I get it. When you close off an hour and a half in a large practice, the production dollars that you're losing feels really, really high. But when you have a calibrated team that is systemized, you can produce way more than that hour and a half ever will. So protect the time. And again, celebrate the wins. Human beings need, it's not a want, it's a need to be validated. And one of the biggest things that I hear practices say is, oh my gosh, turnover. It's so tough. And I'm like, okay, we have to honor the people that are in our practices. We have to see them. We have to notice them, especially during change. You do not want to lose a team member because of the change quietly. And they say one thing, but it was really their fear of the change. That was the issue. So celebrate the wins, validate them, allow them to know that they're doing well. And this is how you're going to be able to do that. And so there's a 30-day implementation plan. AI is not optional anymore. And there are going to be two businesses in the next 5 years. There are going to be the businesses that don't prioritize AI, and there are going to be the ones that do. The ones that do are going to increase their customer service immediately. They're going to increase their efficiency. They are going to plug any holes in their practice that they may not have seen previously. They're going to be able to communicate with their patients in a different way, and their entire patient experience will be elevated. These are the practices that are going to prioritize implementing AI in their practices. These are the businesses that are going to use this technology to their benefit. And there has never been a better time to grow. I feel like AI for dentistry specifically is going to reduce burnout. It's going to increase patient care. It's going to increase team satisfaction, but we must know how to implement it appropriately. And that's what you learned tonight. The practices that don't implement AI, the ones that are slow to implement AI. And again, this is not to scare you. This is just to help you understand where the future of dentistry is going. This is to help you understand the possibility in your own practices right now, today. The ones that don't will slowly be lapped by the practices that are using it for their marketing, that are using it for their insurance efficiencies, that are using it for their AR, because they are going to have more energy. Dentistry is an energetic game. We know this. When we're working in practices, there are a million things to do, and there are a lot of people to serve. And so when we can use these tools in our back pocket to grow the practice, this is where you are going to allow yourself to have some of the most monumental growth that dentistry has ever seen. So this is what I want you to do: is have a plan, be strategic about this, be discerning, be conscious, know what's happening to your own brain and to your team's brain as you're doing this. Pick your problem. What is your number one problem? Choose one AI technology. Pick a company that's been in dentistry for a while. Make sure that you research any of their HIPAA policies. Most of the ones that have been in dentistry for a long time have had this buttoned up for years. And then pick that workflow, the highest pain point and the lowest risk. Again, we are not wanting to change our entire practice management software tomorrow if we're not sure. Use admin first and then move into clinical once you get wins. And then Week 2, you're going to test it. You're going to test it. And I say this to teams all the time. So we're going to try this. Let's see how it goes. If it isn't benefiting us or the patients, we drop it. But we're going to test this. And we need everyone to commit for 2 weeks. Anybody can do anything for 2 weeks. 2-week test, your champion, your AI officer runs the point, and the leader is visibly learning alongside everyone else. I see sometimes doctors, they're like, you guys do it. I don't want to know. It doesn't help with the adoption. We have to all be playing the game in terms of new technology adoption. Week 3, you measure it. Did this help the practice? Did it serve us? Did we get to connect with more patients? Did our patients have a better experience or outcome? The time returned to one person a day, that means that the technology is worth it. And again, when you're looking at the different technology to use, there are ones that overlap each other. Make sure you're not paying for dozens of different services that are doing the same thing. That's happening right now in real time. Did this increase our patient touches? Did we see a number shift? Did we see a win? Then we keep it together. And when you do this, decide together. You can tell your team, we're going to keep, refine, or kill this. What do you think? Get a vote, get a poll. When you have your team feel like they are a part of the solution, part of the progress, they will run with the next workflow. They'll be excited about the next workflow and then do it again. This is how I want you to really think through an AI implementation plan. Decide what is your highest pain and lowest risk. Choose the company, get your AI officer, measure it, decide together. And this is how you're going to see this stick. This is how you're going to see the investment into new technology actually pay off. And this is how you're going to keep your team cognitively balanced. You're going to see them enjoying this process. You're not going to see people quietly leaving dentistry because they're afraid. And so we have to remember that our dental practices, our dental profession is a very, very human-based practice. And I know all of you know that if you're here tonight learning AI, learning how the neuroscience of our brains are being affected by this. And all of you here tonight, I know, are conscious and are wanting to start to get on this shift. Do it intelligently, and you can. So let's lead this change with clearer minds, knowing our brains. I have a 30-day implementation kit if you want it. It has the CALM framework. There's a checklist. There's your leadership moves. Everything's there for you. If you want that, you can just send me an email, allison@allisonlacussier.com. And we have 5 minutes for questions. I would love to hear questions, any problems that you're facing. If you're, wanting to learn anything about AI, I would love, love, love to open this up to questions. And then we'll get some, I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the chat right now, but we'll see if there's anything in here for questions. Yeah, we won't be replaced. We will be very, very empowered with AI. We have infinite intelligence in our back pocket, in our phone. And now we just get to do even better in dentistry for our patients, for our team, because we are taking some of that cognitive burden off of our plates. Dentistry is a very, very stressful profession, as you all know. How do we make this easier for our teams, for ourselves? Joy says dentists are the issue. I mean, they're also the solution. So dentists they are learning how to implement technology the exact same as everyone else. It's not always easy. Any other questions? I would love to hear, even if you're still here and you're in the chat, what was your favorite part of this webinar? What was the part that stood out for you? What are you going to take back? What are you going to implement? What tool are you going to use first in your practice? Again, these tools are incredible. It is incredible what is possible. Your administrators can now be superheroes in the practice. Do you see AI being merged with Elon Musk's neural tech? I mean, there's so many different AI companies. It's a tough question to answer. I mean, maybe some will be merged with Elon, but I can't answer if it will all be. I don't think so. Learning that it's not just my team that is resistant to change, it's human. It really is. This is one of the biggest things that when you go into your practice, if you stop feeling frustrated by humans being humans, you're going to get so much more out of your team, truly. And one of my favorite quotes is give each other grace, not grief. Give each other grace, not grief. There are a lot of changes happening in the world right now. And again, from a biological perspective, as human beings, we were not designed to change this quickly. And things are going to continue to change faster. Recognize if someone freezes, if someone balks, if someone doesn't immediately get excited about something, it's simply because their biology is doing exactly what it was trained to do for decades and decades and decades. So, really giving each other grace, not grief. The other thing that I would say is with every single one of your team members, always assume best intent. I always assume someone is trying their best. And even if it's not that great, I assume that they're trying their best because we have no idea what people are going through. And so just assume best intent, be the leader of this change, look to implement AI today, like after this call, figure out which AI you want to use. I'm so happy. Send me an email, ask me questions about certain AI. I'm happy to give an intro to anybody that you want. Yes, Joyce, don't assume. There you go. And Fanny says, one change at a time, measuring, celebrate success. 100%. Thank you so much, David. I'm happy you enjoyed it. You're a great audience. You guys were fabulous. You're sticking to the end. Only wet babies want change. I may have to be one. There you go. What's the best AI for front desk administration? Trisha, there's a couple I would look into. Look into Mango for voice. Look into Pearl for the, like, you can take the x-rays and it translates all the way into the treatment planning, into patient communication. Look into practice by numbers for everything, all pulling all the data in your practice, being able to send emails, texts, messages to your patients. It's incredible. You get all the data that you need for your practice, and there's really, really cool. There's so many out there, but those are the ones that I've used personally. Curve, as a practice management software, has a really great AI feature now. Joyce is asking, what about Epic? I've not heard of Epic. Okay, so Trisha says, do you know of an AI platform to help with team management, like helping focusing on building team members up? It's hard for me to focus on both team members and metrics. Yeah, Trisha, I would say it sounds like you're an office manager. There are a couple of really cool programs that people are using for like training. The one's called Trainual. It's not actually a dental platform, but what it is team members can go in and actually like learn and be trained on some of the practice protocols, systems, things like that. And you can actually watch their progress through it. So I love being able to train the team members using something like that. And then I would say for you as an office manager, what can you take off of your plate that is taking up a lot of work that AI could cover so that you can focus more on the humans? Because AI is meant to help you take the things off your plate that are like repetitive. They are, time consuming. They don't require a human touch. And so a lot of the managers that I'm working with, they're taking some of that like insurance, the AR, the scheduling, the recalls, all of that off their plate so that they can actually focus on the humans more. So yeah, I would say learn how, this is one of the things that I would invest in is like learn how to be better at communication. This is just like a life skill, but it's going to help you in this next era. Learn how to be better at communication, learn how to handle and manage human beings, learn how to be even more empathetic and build relationships. These are the skills that AI cannot replace. They will be able to replace some of the data-driven materials. But if you want to be a fabulous manager, a fabulous leader, get really good with humans, because that is the piece where, as much as people are talking to their ChatGPT about, certain things and getting advice, human to human connection is premium. This is the premium asset. So double down on your human connection. Thank you, Mark. Okay, cool, Joe. I have not. EHR. Okay, amazing. I'll take a look at that. But yes, send me an email if you would like this checklist. There's a Monday morning checklist. It's one PDF. It's super helpful. It'll give the leadership moves for you as well. And I'll just get my team to send it to you so you can have that for your practice.